Chapter 10 Legendary. Knight and his mistress, the moon, were both out to play when Tella reached the starlit stone garden where she was supposed to meet Scarlet before beginning their grand adventure. The fated ball at Ildy Castle marked the official beginning of Carvel. But that night there'd be celebrations all over the city. At each one, the first sets of clues would be distributed to the people from across Belinda could play. Even the air buzzed with anticipation and excitement. Tella could feel it licking her skin as if it wanted to drink in her frenzied emotions as well. Tella wasn't usually anxious. She liked the thrill that came with taking risks. She loved the feeling of doing something bold enough to make her future hold its breath while she closed her eyes and reveled in the sensation that she'd made the choice with the power to after the course of her life. It was the closest she had ever come to hold real power. But Tella also knew not every gamble paid off. She spent all day thinking about it as she explored the palace grounds in the failed search for rumor or secret passages. She felt mostly certain tonight would go as planned. Scarlet would understand when Tella confessed all of her secrets. Tella's friend would have given her a week to play the game and uncover Legend's name, so she could erase the terrible future that the oracle had showed, and finally find out who her mother really was and why she left so many years ago. Tella had succeeded as far more complicated plots, and yet she could not shake the growing premonition that all her plans were about to unravel. She ran her fingers over the luckless coin concealed in her pocket. Her friend said that he would be sure to find her as long as she had the coin, and Tella wondered if he was already at Ildy Castle searching for her. Perhaps the heir was looking for her as well. Tella released a nervous laugh. She was definitely in over her head, but at least she'd soon have her sister with her. In the distance the bell rang, marking the time as 11:15. Less than 1 hour left until Carvel officially began. Tella was running out of time. Her friend had wanted her at the party before midnight, but Scarlet was nowhere in sight. A few skyfall blue petals sprayed from Tella's flowering gown as she shot an uneasy look around the garden, hoping for a glimpse of one of her sister's cherry dresses. But Tella's only companions were the immobile statues. The legends claim that at one point during the fate's indomitable rule, the statues of haunting Stone Garden had been real people, mostly outdoor servants going about their palace duties, pruning shrubs, picking flowers, and sweeping paths, when, for no fault of their own, they'd been turned to stone. It was said the undead queen had done it. Apparently, she didn't believe the current sculptures looked lifelike enough, so she wanted another fate to transform a group of servants into statues. Tella looked into the wide stone eyes of a young maid, imagining that her panic had mirrored Tella's own. It wasn't like Scarlet to be tardy, unless her sister wasn't coming or something had happened to her. Nervously, Tella went to the edge of the garden, craning her neck toward the hedge-lined path back to the palace. She might have started down it to try to find her sister, but another person was already on it, Dante. Tella, already anxious stomach, did another flip. He traded in the black clothes he seemed to favor for number more gray, but his tall boots and the silk cravat around his neck were both deep shades of blue, black smoke, matching the curls of ink on his ungloved fingers. He looked like a freshly woken storm, or a beautiful nightmare come to life, so he could presumably hunt her. Tella considered darting behind one of the statues. It was supposed to spot her from far away at the ball. He was supposed to be dazzled by her extravagant gown and jealous when he spied her flirting with another man. He was not supposed to see her nervously standing in a garden by herself. She hoped he walked right by the statue without noticing her, but Dante's gaze had already found her. It took hold of Tella like a pair of hands wrapping around her waist and holding her in place as she approached. His shut eyes took their time trailing from her unbound hair to the ribbon tied around her throat, where they darkened and rested a full second before dropping. Tella didn't usually blush, but she felt a rush of color from her cheeks. Dante looked up and gave her a fallen star smile. You should always wear flowers. A few of the shire blossoms on her gown finally bloomed, and Tella met Dante's eyes with one of the most dazzling smiles. I'm not wearing these for you. The dress was a gift from my fiancé. Dante's eyebrows arched, but it wasn't with the jealousy she hoped for. He eyed the gown as if it were something filthy, and then looked at Tella as if she got completely mad. You need to be more careful with what you say. Why's that? Are you jealous and afraid someone other than a matron might actually leave me? Or are you suddenly nervous because Antoine's heir, the fiancé you gave me, is a murderous fiend who might kill me for claiming we're engaged? Before Dante could answer, Tella swept past him toward the path to the palace, and hopefully her sister. It was now 11:30 and growing closer to midnight. She needed Donatella. Dante snatched her wrist before she could take a second step. Just tell me you're not going to the fated ball in Ildy Castle. That would be a lie. Dante's fingers tensed around her wrist. There are other parties. You shouldn't be going to that one. Why not? Tillis pulled away. I enjoy drinking and dancing, and even you acknowledge that I look rather spectacular. She did a half twirl, letting the petals of her skirt brush against her polished boots. Dante gave her a look so withering. The flowers that had just swept her trousers retreated back into buds. Elder Castle belongs to Antine's heir. Do you know what will happen to you there if he discovers you're claiming to be his fiancé? No, but it might be interesting to find out. She flashed an impish smile. A line of frustrated dread started up Dante's neck. Antine's heir is unhinged. He hasn't just killed other heirs. He's murdered anyone he's believed might get in his way to the throne. If he suspects for a second you're one of those people, he will end you too. Tella resisted the urge to flinch or cower. A part of her recognized that wearing the dress and risking the heir's attention might have been a poor idea, but it rattled Dante, so Tella refused to think of it as a mistake. Isn't everything you just described what you wanted to happen when you told your lie? Silence fell, and a fresh chill ripped through the garden, making Tella suddenly aware of how cold the night had grown. Uneasily cold, as if the weather were taking Dante's side and warning Tella to go back inside Antine's palace. You look pathetic, Dante finally said. I wanted to help, but I was also upset with you for what you said on the boat, so I picked the worst person I could imagine without thinking it through. He didn't tell her he was sorry, but his thick brows creased, and his eyes tipped into something that looked like genuine regret. People tossed around the word sorry far too easily, as if it were worth even less than the promise of a copper. Tella rarely believed it, but she found she believed this, probably because it was the sort of thing she would have done. Now, this is an interesting pairing. Armando strode into the garden, tapping a fashionable silver walking stick against several of the more frightening-looking statues. What do you want? Dante asked. I was going to ask you a similar question. The elegant accent Armando had used to play the Count Roncal was replicated by a raspier voice, as he angled his perfect-groomed head from Tella to Dante and said, I thought you were interested in the prudish sister. Tella's hands worked an instinct, pulling back and slapping Armando across his face. You don't get to talk about my sister, ever. Armando lifted a gloved hand to his purpling jaw. I wish you'd given me that warning an hour ago. Your sister slaps even harder than you do. Alarm flooded Tella. You talked to her. It seems she didn't fully understand the concept that Caravel is only a game, pretty but not terribly bright. Watch it, Dante warned. I'll do more than slap you. Armando's sharp narrowed eyes lit into amusement. You must really like this one. Or does legend have you work her the way Julian worked his sister? Tella could have smacked him again, but Amanda was already gliding backward. A word of advice before tonight's party: don't expect the mistakes your sister made in the last game, and you might not want to wait around for her either. Amanda continued to the exit as he said, she was pleased to find out I wasn't her real fiancé. When I left, her and poor Julian, their conversation was heated. I don't imagine I was slimmer until after the ball. Filthy wretch. Tella loosened a string of inelegant curses at his disappearing back. She knew nothing could ever really be believed during Carol, but she was convinced that even when he wasn't acting, Amanda was as vile as the roles he played. I'm going to pray that angels come down and cut out his tongue. Dante's gaze traveled skyward until Tella swore more than one star blinked out its existence as he said, I'm sure many would thank you for that. Tella still fumed. Why does legend even keep him around? Every good story needs a villain. But the best villains are the ones you secretly like. And my nana always said legend was the villain in Carvel. Dante's lips twisted into something like a smirk. Of course she did. Obviously, she was lying. Everyone either wants legend or wants to be legend. The only way to keep innocent young girls from running off to find him is to tell them he's a monster, but that doesn't mean it's all a lie. Johnson's lips widened into a taunting smile, and his dark eyes shimmered as he returned to tell her. The scoundrel was teasing her, or perhaps he was legend, and couldn't resist talking about how others were so obsessed with him. Dante was definitely handsome and arrogant enough to be legend, but Teller imagined the master of Garber had more important things to do on the first night of the game than torment her. Another bell rang in the distance. Midnight would approach in 15 minutes. If Teller didn't leave at this moment, she would be late to meet her friend. I felt wrong not to return back to Scarlet. Tella could only imagine how upset her sister must have been to learn how deeply Armando and everyone else had deceived her during Carvel. Tella hadn't wanted her to find out this way, but Tella's friend was already at the ball, and in his letter he said he would not wait past midnight. Tella did not enjoy the idea of abandoning her sister, but Scarlet would not forgive her, and the same could not be said for her friend if Tella arrived late. As delightful as this friendliness had been, she told Dante, I'm tardy for a party, and I imagine you have a job to do. Before he could attempt to stop her, she leaped through the garden's exit. More stars winked out at Tella, made her way to the glowing carriage house, where a servant helped her inside of a tall-glass coach, still smelling of its last radish perfume. Dante stood in right behind her. Will you please stop following me? Maybe Armando was being honest for once, and it's my job to follow you. Dante stretched out on a seat across from her, his long legs practically filling all the empty space between them. You know what I think, Tella said. You want an excuse to spend the evening with me. His mouth formed a wary smile as he slowly ran the wide thumb over his lower lip. I hate to break your heart, but I think of girls the way I imagine you think of ball gowns. It's never a good idea to wear the same one more than once. If Stella could have shown him out of the carriage and replaced him with the spoiled nobleman from the other day, she would have. Instead, she gave him her sweetest smile. What a coincidence. This is the same way I see young men. Dante held her gaze for a moment, and then he laughed, the same delicious low sound that always made her stomach rumble. Attempting to ignore him, Tella turned toward the window as the box lifted into the lightless night. She didn't know where the stars had gone, but somewhere in between the garden and the carriage they vanished, turning the sky into an ocean of dark, soddy and blackened. The night shimmered. In between one moment and the next, the world exploded with silver. Tella shot her gaze toward the carriage window just in time to see the lost stars return, glowing brighter than before. They danced into new constellations. She counted more than a dozen, all forming the same bewitching image, a sun with a starburst inside, and a glittering teardrop inside of the star, the symbol of Caravel.